Shalom everyone, this is Rav Natan over here. I am in the holy city of Jerusalem, sitting with an amazing man, Aaron Glazer. Aaron Glazer is the CEO and the managing partner of Blue Thread Marketing, which is a holistic, I'm getting this right, a holistic digital marketing company based in the holy city of Jerusalem, but they have clients throughout the entire world. If you are not a client of Blue Thread Marketing yet, you will be by the end of this little talk. So Aaron, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure that we're having each other.
That's fantastic. This is great. Thank you. Have a good one. All right.
See you later. All right, Aaron, will you tell us a little bit about who you are, how you came to doing holistic digital marketing,
Sure.
And then we're going to jump into some questions.
Sure, but if you forgive me, I'm going to speak to you and not to the camera because, being a person who believes in real exchange, I want to make sure that we're talking, and everyone is invited to participate into our conversation.
Welcome along.
But I'm going to talk with you, please, and not to the camera, if
Please
that's
be
okay.
quiet so we can concentrate.
Thanks. My name is Aaron Glazer. I run a digital marketing firm based here in Jerusalem. We are a holistic marketing company, and what that means is we really take the time to invest into our clients and to sit with each and every one of our clients to know what is it that they need and how can we help them in the best possible way. And we look at their needs from a holistic perspective and we say, okay, now how can we create a strategy that works best for you? So none of our clients have the same template of work that we do with them, but the work that we do work with is all within the framework of digital marketing. So, we build websites, we focus on branding and strategy development, social media marketing, Google advertising, organic searches, and things like that. And we use all those different components to help our clients achieve the goals that they're looking for.
Amazing. What does someone like you, what qualities does someone like you need to have in order to do that for the world?
Well, the most important thing is you really need to understand the sphere and you really need to take the time to invest in your clients. We have clients in industries that range crazy. We have clients in the tourism industry, in the medical industry, in the high-tech industry, in the accounting and law industries, in the tourism industry, biotech. We have clients across the spectrum. And the very first thing that we do when we sit down with our clients is we really take the time to say, okay, look, we clearly are not going to be the professionals like you are. You've invested years into this component. But that being said is we want to make sure that we understand as well as we can, because if we cannot represent you as your partner in this marketing process, then we're failing for you and for us. So we use both conversation of understanding, we read and we learn about your industry, and then we also use the tools we have at hand to learn the tips and tricks of actually what's happening within that industry. So we utilize Google searches and data from people who are your customers or customer wannabes to create that picture of, look, this is the story that's happening outside of your company, and now here's how we can apply it to the work that we're doing inside your company.
Amazing. So what's coming to me as you're saying all of that, the stuff that I understand, is that this is relationship based. This is understanding your client, not sitting back and going, okay, I'm the expert in X, right? You're the expert in Y, we have nothing to do with each other. No, I'm going to make every effort to understand you and your industry in order to uplift who you are and what you can do for the world.
Absolutely. Marketing is 100% relationships. 100%. And anyone who tells you otherwise is not doing it right. Look, I come from the world of education. And marketing and education are very similar in concepts, but the tools that you have at hand are different, right? And I ask myself as a teacher, all the time, how do you know if you're a successful teacher?
Okay.
How do you know that, right? You walk into a classroom, what's your gauge of reference to know that that was a successful lesson or not? And the simple tricks and tools are, well, the first thing is, do you know what class you're teaching and who's in that class?
Yeah.
Right? Number two is, once you're there and you're teaching, are the students engaged with you? How can you tell? Are they asking questions? Are they listening? Are they following what's going on? Are they able to answer your questions? Do they understand what you're saying? How do you know that they understand it? Right? What's your reference point for checking in on them?
Yep.
And most importantly, do they appreciate the process? Marketing is the same thing. Number one, if you don't know who your customers or clients are, you're just shouting out in the wind.
Yep.
There is so much noise in the wind. So much noise. And if you don't take the time to really understand who you're talking to, you're just making more noise and you're gonna let it go.
You're going to be swallowed up in the rest of the noise.
Of course, Steve Jobs has an amazing amazing quote. Steve Jobs is he was the CEO of Apple, and even for a company as world famous as Apple, he said, "You don't get a second chance at helping the world listen to your message. And so if you're putting something out there, make it count."
Amazing.
And so the same thing applies. And so no matter what industry you're working with, no matter what company or brand you're working with, if you don't understand who's on the other end of your product or service, then you're setting yourself up for failure. So the very first thing that we need to do in conjunction with you as your partner is help you understand and identify clearly who are the people you want to be targeting and why. Why are they your audience? And then based off of that, then we could start to develop the strategy that makes most sense in order to interact and engage with them in a meaningful way. And that meaningful way is all about branding, it's about promotion, and most importantly, it's sales. If you're a business or a service and you're not making sales,
then what's the point?
You're dead. You can have all the branding in the world, all of it, but if you don't make sales, you're done. The challenge is really being able to balance branding and sales in a meaningful way that you could accomplish both.
Something that when you're talking about attention, right, grabbing the people's attention in class, when I first started teaching, Rabbi Yoshua Shmakla said to me like this. He was the head of the Jewish teaching, right?
Sure.
I turned up to school. I'm like, I'm ready to teach. Let's do this thing. He was like, you're not teaching, man. You sit at the back of the class. I think it was 2 months. I did not teach a lesson. I sat at the back of the class, and it was Jewish studies, Hebrew, history, geography, maths, everything, science, things I didn't even understand. He said, I want you to plot how many students and their attention spans across the time of the lesson.
Right.
I want you to plot if and when that teacher recognizes the fact that its student has gone off and lost the attention, has lost the journey of what's happening in a class. If the teacher recognizes, what tools does he or she use to bring them back to the class? It was the best thing I've ever done in the training of teaching, ever. And that's what you guys are about, right? It's understanding what lesson to give so that people listen. It's understanding how to keep their attention for that journey, and in the end, how do I make the sale? How do I actually, what do I sell to this person at the end of the line?
Are you sure you're not in marketing also?
No.
Because that was like right on key. That was great.
I'm learning from you. I'm learning for you. Okay, so one of the most spoken about things with social media, and I know some of my followers, if not all of my followers, if they have children now or they're worrying about children in the future, what do you believe as a kid, as a person with kids, young kids as well, right? About the same ages as my kids, what is your forecast for the effects of social media on our children, number one? Number two, over and over and over, we hear people say, our kids aren't learning to communicate, they don't know how to do this, they're always on their phone. But people like Gary Vaynerchuk say, no, they are communicating. They're communicating in a new way. They're communicating with people who they've never communicated with before. Kids who don't have the ability to have eye-to-eye contact are actually now having relationships with people who also can't do that. So as a professional in this field that doesn't only talk to adults, what is your forecast of what we're doing to our kids in this generation?
So whether you like to hear it or not, technology is the future. And you could try to hold yourself back in a separate world, in a different world, try not to engage as much as you want. But if you're part of what's going on, this is the future. And you're either going to be part of it or you're not. And if you can fight it all you want, but it's a losing battle. And so the question is not going to be do I let my kids use technology, smartphones, social media The question is how do you create balance in what that life looks like? And I believe in life and in marketing and in everything, there is and has to be a balance in understanding. Now, for me as a marketer, I love the fact that everyone's on their cell phones. They're like, yeah, how do you do that? Right? Because that's exactly where we want them to be, right? We target, boom, you're on your phone anyway, they come buy my product, like that's great. As a parent, I might get really upset at myself. So the challenge really has to be is how do you create boundaries that make sense? You're not going to win the battle of it's not a matter of can I join Facebook or Instagram? It's when will I join Facebook and Instagram? And if it's not Facebook, it's a different platform. Okay, so the question is when. But what you want to do with that is say, okay, well, what makes for coherent human beings, right? We're still in the business, behind every technology, behind every tool, we're still in the business of people to people, okay? Yes. People talk about marketing in a few different components. There's the B to C component, the business to community component, right? I'm a business looking to promote my product to my general community. There's the B2B component, from business to business. I am a service provider or a product, and I'm looking to sell my business, my product or service to another business to use it for their customers, B2B. But the reality is that that's not true. That's not 100% correct. What is correct is that the world of marketing and the world in general is a human-to-human business.
Oh, I love that.
Amazing. It is. It's human-to-human. And behind every interaction and behind every tool and every technology that exists, it's all about how the human-to-human interaction makes sense. And then, depending on what the needs that you need are, right, it's a product, it's a service, it's a tool, it's whatever it happens to be, and whatever then comes to the surface. But the principles are the same. The same thing applies to children, applies to smartphones, social media, technology, etc. You're going to have to accept the fact that this is where we're going in the future. These are the next steps we're taking with virtual reality, augmented reality, AI, whatever, all those directions that we're moving forward in. And then as a parent, you have to ask yourself, okay, well, what are appropriate boundaries? So I know in our family, and as a parent, not as a marketer, as a parent, we set rules with our kids of when they're allowed to be on their screens and when they're not. Right? We have rules that all my kids' accounts I have access to. So anything that happens, I'm aware of it also. Yeah. And so those are boundaries that we're able to keep that make sense for us. We also have rules that no screens are allowed at the table, right? There is time where we want to connect as people, and there's times when we want to connect as a family, and then there's times that it's okay. I think that people are also different, and they respond differently to the tools that they have. And so for some people, having this technology is a blessing. Yes. Huge blessing. And for other people, it's not. And so you're going to have to understand what that balance looks like and create a meaningful way that works for you, for your family, for your children, for your community, etc.
Very important. Like I always talk about making a family norm, right? You need to know what your family vision is. You don't need to buy into anyone else's family vision or family norm. This is up to you and your spouse, your children, to sit down to discuss, create the boundaries around. If I know some people will be turning around saying, no, I can, I'll be able to rule that forever for my children. So what I have to say is I totally respect that. At the same time...
It's naive. I'm really sorry. It's naive.
Yeah. So what I want to say about that is that, Shlomo HaMelech says you have to educate your child according to their way. Why? So that when they're older, they can not lose it, they can carry on with it. So the way that we deal with the boundaries, or this is, yes, you can have it, but this is how we use it, is very important at this time, because there will be some time, a lot of people homeschool their children and stuff like that, but there will be a time that they're going to go out into that big bad world, and they're going to need to know how to deal with that onslaught of social media, that onslaught of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that type of stuff.
Yeah. Look, there are people who run very successful businesses without having to talk to a single person. They do everything on their computer, on their phone, everything online, and it works for them. And that's great. And then they have some people who are the complete opposite. But as we are moving forward and technology is moving at the pace that we're moving at, and I can tell you from personal example, I have clients that are changing the face of this world with the products and services that they are working on. It is amazing, amazing. And if you don't jump into the fact that understanding, look, maybe it's not going to happen tomorrow like everyone predicts, but we're going there.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to be able to learn to adapt and balance what that looks like. So today's the smartphone. In a year, it might not be the smartphone anymore,
Yeah.
but it's the next challenge of what we're dealing with. And if you don't teach your children